So I was sent a couple of videos from a friend on TikTok. Apparently there's an entire rabbit hole that you can go down on TikTok about the whole endometriosis versus Whoopi Goldberg incorrect information. And a lot of people are screaming about this. The Endometriosis Society or whatever of America is endorsing her, I guess, because she's a celebrity and they want her celebrityism. But please listen to these following videos and clips, because there is very relevant information, and they're all saying the same thing that I said, that Whoopi has no business talking about this, and she's doing a grave disservice to women who have and are suffering with this. So look at these videos, and I will post links to each of them at the end.
So what do you think that it's about? Well, I think that they are right. They're not being believed. I think that they think that because it's true. I hear that all around the world as we screen this film. Every continent. I mean, it's the same experience. Educated women, skilled workers. It doesn't matter who they are, what their socioeconomic status is, what their race is, what their nationality is, what their age is. They are coming away from doctors' visits feeling like they're not being taken seriously for their symptoms.
And that's not new with endometriosis. The way that women's both physical and mental health has been treated for a very long time is to dismiss, is to underestimate, is to gaslight, as Shannon said. And the result is that for, I don't know how many generations, hundreds of years, maybe the millennial, women didn't know what to believe themselves.
Yeah.
I mean, if you are having acute pain, which endometriosis causes, and you try to tell people and they say it's in your head, or it's because you have your period, or, women go through this, don't worry about it, and it goes on for years. Clearly, there's a huge disconnect between how not just the medical profession, but society sees women's pain and how the reality of it is lived out in our lives.
Yeah.
That's why I was so proud to be associated with.
As an endometriosis specialist, I was super excited that The View had talked about endo, and I saw this headline, Whoopi Goldberg shares her battle with endometriosis. Unfortunately, what she said about endo was wrong. The episode airing last week featured Hillary Clinton, who executive produced a documentary about endo called Below the Belt, and it's amazing. You should go see it. It also had Shannon Kahn, the director. And then Whoopi Goldberg kind of told a story about something. She had a UTI, and then she had what sounds like a discharge with odor, and that also looked like cottage cheese. And to me, those sound like BV and yeast infection. But then she said it was called endometriosis, and it was treated with antibiotics, which that's not what endometriosis is or how it's treated. What people think she might have been talking about is endometritis, which is an infection of the endometrium or tissue inside the uterine cavity, which is treated with antibiotics. But endometriosis is a totally different thing. It's tissue that looks like endometrium growing outside of the uterus, and its main symptom is pain. Pain with periods, low back pain, pain with sex, or with bowel movements. It can cause irregular bleeding and bowel symptoms like diarrhea, constipation, or infertility. It's also diagnosed and treated surgically with laparoscopic surgery, where we put a camera in and we remove the endometriosis, not with antibiotics. I am a big fan of Whoopi Goldberg, have been for years, and I 100% agree with her frustration over the fact that, women are waiting years and years for relief from such a common and painful condition. So A+ for advocacy. I do hope that they issue a correction about the definition and the treatment of endo, though.
Looking more into the whole Whoopi Goldberg and endometriosis thing, I have kind of fallen down a rabbit hole. Shall we?
Here's the thing I came to say. I had endometriosis 30 years ago, maybe. I was very, very lucky. I had an intelligent doctor who sort of knew what was going on and said, well, here, take this stuff, and it cleared it up. For some reason...
Here, take this, and it cleared it up. This video was from 2009, when the Endometriosis Foundation Blossom Ball basically first began, when Padma Lewinsky and Dr. Seckin got together and decided to attempt to give us advocacy and education.
For some reason, I thought we all knew about endometriosis. transmitted. Some people think that it's because you've let other things go. You got a yeast infection and oh, you let it go.
When she was recently on The View a few days ago and had Below the Belt, she described her journey with endometriosis and discovering she had it. This is what she said. I was lucky enough to find somebody who said this is endometriosis and they were able to treat me with antibiotics. This is not endometriosis. In her 2009 speech, she talked about how people confuse this with sexual issues and a yeast infection because of the cottage cheese like whatever. She also went on to talk about how they gave her antibiotics and it cleared it right up. Just like in her 2009 speech, the doctor was great and she was lucky enough to find a doctor to give her something that just cleared it right up, and now she no longer has endometriosis. She had it.
I called my daughter, who is in her 30s now, and I said, do you know what endometriosis is? She said, what? I said, no, man, you've never heard of it? No, she said, I don't know what it is. And it occurred to me that if my 30-year-old daughter, who I told about endometriosis and it didn't stick, if she didn't know, and she's one of the hippest people I know, then her daughter doesn't know. She has a 19-year-old, and she has a 13-year-old.
So Whoopi got invited to the Blossom Ball by Padma because they were buddies, you know. And so during this part of the speech, she's going on about how she contacted her daughters after she was approached by Padma about coming to the Blossom Ball and speaking about her journey with endometriosis. So honestly, I believe that she definitely has endometriosis confused, simply because her doctor probably told her endometritis, and just the endometry confuses people. And I get that. But here she is calling people up, her own family, not only her daughter, but then her daughter is going to run to her daughters, who are going to run to their friends. And they're going to say, oh my gosh, you guys, my mom just found this out, and this is what she had, and she had antibiotics, and this and this and this. And it's just kind of like when that study that came out and it talked about the gut health and the bacteria that comes out into your guts sometimes, and antibiotics can treat it, and the bacteria is the reason we have endometriosis. It's BS. It's not true, because antibiotics do not treat endometriosis. It could relieve side effects, but then again, still not the call. When we focus on Whoopi's symptoms, she talked about genuinely feeling uneasy, the foul-smelling cottage cheese-like. Yes, some people would think of that as the yeast infection. Also kind of like the stigmatized ideals that she was talking about in her 2009 speech about it being sexually transmitted, and STD aspects along with the yeast infection, and it's all sex-based. Yes, everything is woman-based, apparently. Unfortunately, we're gonna change that. But let's break down some definitions real quick before we move on further with her speech. Again, key noting her symptoms here. When you look at endometritis, you can see here abdominal discharge, fever, swelling, generally uneasiness and discomfort. And could be stimulated by STDs as well as bacterial infections. At this point in the video, I would like to bring up the factor that she has got this ideal of the disease entirely wrong. And she's been talking about this disease to so many people and telling them, antibiotics treated me, antibiotics cured me, antibiotics did this. I no longer have endometriosis because antibiotics.
A lot of press around, and so I'm going to say this loud enough for the press to hear it. For all the questions that you asked, all the people that you saw, make sure you write in your articles that this is something that needs to be discussed. If you don't discuss it, many more women are going going to find themselves unable to have children or find themselves close to dying because it's led to something else. It's going to be
It's very, very important to talk about this disease in its proper context. And I understand in 2009, we were still discovering lots of things about this disease, but we knew it was not a UTI or a cottage cheese-like substance. We knew that. And the Endometriosis Foundation should have picked up on that, but they have been running with a celebrity who has been running with this narrative. Can you guys see this? This is not the first time Endometriosis Foundation has created problems, and a lot of their other narratives have also been questionable, as well as their affiliation with ACOG and still pushing hysterectomies as treatments for endometriosis because it's easier for insurance. Even though it's not proven, it's just easier and cheaper. What has been proven is hysterectomies not being a treatment for endometriosis. Do you guys see where I'm going at all? Let's continue.
We have a duty tonight. Everybody, and guys, this is for you as well, because I know you know women. You have a duty tonight. You only have to tell one other person what you heard. Just tell them what you heard. It has to do with here's a disease you don't know about, and you need to know about it. It's that simple. Because if we can wake the women up who are listening, and the men, if we can wake the folks up, we stand a good chance of maybe getting in front of this thing and not lingering so far behind.
Now, here we are in 2023, 14 years later, and these theories are still being spoken because of the Endometriosis Foundation of America that are supposed to be behind advocacy and education and awareness, but they're not correcting massive misinformation that is going to cause harm and confusion in our community. And I have proof. Here's an example from today. Already, we're beginning to have confusion in our community just because of her recent episode of The View and her discussion about her personal journey with endometriosis, which there's no cure. Do not run and get an antibiotic because Whoopi Goldberg said so. Please. Don't go run and get a hysterectomy or any other pill because a doctor says it's a treatment for endometriosis. It's not. There is no treatment for endometriosis except removing it from the roots with excision surgery. And that's not even a cure. She's also been thrown under the bus just the past few days because she's talking down on millennials being lazy. Our generation is just taking off our blinders. Our generation is also waking up and not following the lead of Big Pharma.